Savages! Welcome to another episode of the Refined Savage podcast. Today on the show, what do we have here for business? Where's my sheet? Alright, here we go. VikingCoffeeCode.com. I do these ads off the top of my head, but I need a sheet once in a while so I can remember the goddamn codes. VikingCoffeeCode.com. Evan Armstrong's company out of Bowling Green, Ohio. Evan is a bearded Viking maniac, and he is addicted to coffee. And he's up there making coffee for all you good people. He makes our Old Man Strength brew, the best stuff out there. Don't buy store-bought coffee. It's garbage. Take it from me. Viking Coffee is where you want to be. Everyone I've pushed towards Viking Coffee has loved it and has returned orders. So, VikingCoffeeCode.com. Use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout for 10% off. Cerberus Strength. Cerberus makes the best products for all the stuff we need as Highland Games athletes. Tacky, throwing bags, knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, t-shirts, belts, wraps, straps, anything you need to lift heavy or throw far, Cerberus makes. Give them a holler. Cerberus-strength.us. Use the code REFINEDSAVAGE10 at checkout. Give these guys a holler, man. Indoor season is here. It's time to start throwing indoors. Go grab some of those indoor throwing bags. They will get you ready for the Arnold in whenever the Arnold is. March? Check them out. Warrior CBD Official. I am such a huge fan of the company, of Nancy, who's one of the owners, and of the product in general. Warrior CBD, just great people and a great product. It's the best CBD I've tried. I've tried them all. I see people hucking CBD oil on every Instagram page out there. Let me tell you something. Warrior CBD leaves them all in the dust. WarriorCBDOfficial.com. If you've got like a freaked out dog, they've got CBD for your pets. They've got roll-on muscle rubs, which are fantastic for aches and pains. And then the sublingual, which is my favorite, puts you to bed at night, relaxes you, calms you down. Check them out. And if you have questions, get them on Instagram and give Nancy a holler. She answers all the questions, and she will help steer you in the right direction. Use the code WARRIOR20 off at checkout for 20% off. Serious Steel. Serious Steel is like a one-stop shop for anything strength-related. So if you need anything from kettlebells to wrist wraps, anything in between, give them a holler. They have everything. And they are great people with great customer service. I highly recommend this company. They have been one of our longest-running sponsors. SeriousSteel.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Stay Classy Meats is the shit. They are an incredible company. They have small batch farms in Bozeman, Montana, where these animals are raised. They can go out to these farms and see how they're being raised, make sure everything is run smoothly, make sure these animals are being treated humanely. There's no hormones. They're eating fresh Montana grass and drinking from Montana streams. I'm telling you, I know this sounds like a sales pitch, but it makes a difference in the taste. And it also makes a difference in the way you feel. You're not putting this shit into your body. Great products, and I couldn't be happier with them. I will be a customer of Stay Classy Meats long after this podcast is off the air and they are no longer a sponsor. I'm not letting them go anywhere. They're going to be my sponsor for life because I love them. Stay Classy Meats. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Get good meat. Iron and Stone Strength. Iron and Stone up in the Buffalo, New York area. These guys are blue-collar strong up there. They are deadlifting and lifting Atlas stones and running with yokes. And on top of all that, they are making the best gear in the game. I love their t-shirts. Their hats and sweatshirts are awesome, too. Check them out. Look at the designs. Pick something nice. Buy 6 or 7 shirts. You're going to be happy with your decision. Use the code REFINEDSAVAGE at checkout for 20% off. Finally on the show today, Rody Sport. Justin Rody, 2012 Olympian and professional shot putter. He has got an awesome thing going up there. Rody Sport, he makes the shot put glove. The shot put glove is awesome for you people who are throwing shot puts and heavy stones. It's perfect for Highland Games as well as track. Protect your hand while you're throwing. Keep you from getting those fingers bent back on you, which is always a bummer. Check that out. Also check out his closed loop leather lifting straps, which I love. They are great. If you've never used closed loop straps, they're a lot better. You won't want to use any other kind of strap after that, trust me. He is also having the Jolly Big Throws Clinic. That is going to be December 21st at Youngstown State University. He's bringing in coaches from all over the nation, and I've seen like the preliminary list. Some pretty heavy hitters on the list. I'm not at liberty to say because he doesn't have full confirmation on all of them yet, but I got to say, some heavy hitters. Check them out. It's going to be like a meet and greet, learn by doing, and lots of throwing involved. If you sign up early by October 31st, Halloween, you will get early bird registration and get an exclusive swag bag from Roadie Sport. RoadieSport.com, that's RODHESPORT.com. And use the code SAVAGESPORT, all caps, all one word, for 20% off at checkout. Today on the show, we have Mel Fisher. I know what you're thinking. For those of you that know, Mel Fisher's been dead for like 10 years. This is his grandson, Melvin Fisher, who is now a major force in Treasure Salvors down in Key West, Florida. We went down and sat down at the Mel Fisher Museum and talked to Melvin, and we talked about treasure hunting and finding Spanish silver at the bottom of the ocean and what it was like when they found the treasure. And for those of you who don't know, Mel Fisher was a treasure hunter, and he found 500 million in Spanish treasure. That's right, I said 500 million, as in 500 million motherfuckers, sitting on the bottom of the ocean in 30 feet of water off Key West, Florida. Today's the day. See you at the end. We are at the Mel Fisher Museum with Mel Fisher.
Hey, how's it going?
Grandson of the late, great Mel Fisher. So, I am looking at you right now. How much money do you have around your neck at the moment?
Well, I have a 28-foot long gold chain that's a little under a kilogram of gold. Was on the Atocha in 1622 when the ship sank and was recovered in 1986 by my Uncle Kim. That chain is valued at about $750,000.
Jesus Christ.
I also have a piece of 8 from the shipwreck, and it's a couple $1,000s.
Yeah. Very cool. When was the chain found?
So this chain was recovered in 1986,
okay.
A little over 360 years after the sinking of the shipwreck.
I was down here maybe 2013 or 14, and I think they recovered another chain right after I left, because I ended up I was in the Bull, drinking with someone who, I'm guessing everyone down here claims that they're a Mel Fisher diver.
Everybody worked for us.
Right. And so this guy was telling me stories and everything, and I was taking it with a grain of salt. And then the next week, there was a picture of him on the boat with some chain they'd recovered. So it's like, oh, he really was the real deal.
Yeah, it's not an infrequent occasion that, we recovered, like you said, lengths of gold chain, gold bars, silver bars, coins, chests, all kinds of treasure.
So give me the basics of the story. How the sinking of the ship, and let's start there.
Okay, so the Atocha was one of the guards in a 28-ship fleet that was sailing from Havana, Cuba, back to Spain with gold and silver, along with books and cloths and all kinds of religious artifacts that were recovered in the New World, all South and Central America. And about a day out of Havana, Cuba, a hurricane hit. And they were just off about 35 miles off the coast of Key West in really shallow water where there's reefs. And the ships, they draw about 12 feet into the water. Along with 20 to 30 foot waves, it caused a massive shipwreck. Of the 265 people that were on board, there were 5 survivors. And all that treasure was lost at sea.
2 ships, Margareta and the Atocha, right?
Right. They went down within eyesight of each other. And a total of 8 ships actually sank in this hurricane, but only 2 of them were believed to be carrying loads of treasure. And the Atocha alone carried 40 tons of silver and gold. The Margarita as well had silver bars, silver coins, gold chains, chalices, all kinds of items from the New World that were being brought back to Spain.
And your grandfather, so your grandparents were they were a pretty amazing duo before they found the ship. So if I get the story right, Mel was one of the original like scuba diving, I don't know, fanatics. He owned his own scuba shop, right?
So we say that he had one of the first dive shops in the U.S. It was in California, and he started out selling breathing air. He had an air compressor and would fill people's tanks and take people on dive charters out off California. And back then, no one else was really doing it. It was just them. And the way they funded is Mel's dive shop, Mel's Aqua Shop, was one of the first dive shops. They would go out and catch a ton of lobster and come in and sell it to restaurants, sell it to local stores, and build a wall. And go back out and catch another ton of lobsters and come in and build another wall. And eventually, they had Mel's Aqua Shop. And
wow.
They were very, very primitive dive shop operators making the first wetsuits and the first real BCs and dive gear.
Yeah. And Dio was that your grandmother?
Dolores Dio.
And she broke a record for free diving?
Yeah. So, no, she had a dive tank on.
Okay.
In the Hermosa Beach Aquarium, she stayed underwater for 55 hours and 37 minutes. And this is in the early 50s.
Wow. So I'm looking at this old black and white photo of her holding up the sign promoting Mel's Aqua Shop, too, on the sign, which is amazing. July 31st, August 1st, and 2nd.
And she would have stayed longer, but they had doctors dive in with her.
Right.
And, back then, they didn't know what would happen if you stayed underwater for so long, and her skin was so soft and wrinkly that they were like, you got to get out for safety reasons.
Right.
We don't know the repercussions of staying under this.
They're on uncharted waters.
Yeah, and she definitely promoted women's diving, and I think she still holds that record to this day.
Wow, amazing. And so how did he find out about the Atocha? Was he just researching it? Researching it was pretty hard to do back then.
Yeah, so his Atocha story starts much later than his treasure hunting drive. Around, I want to say 1962 or 63, he got a call from a man named Kip Wagner in Florida. And Kip, he knew of these treasure wrecks on the central east coast of Florida. And he didn't have the experienced or dedicated divers to salvage the shipwreck. So he called Mel and he said, look, you come work for me for a year, no promise of pay, but I'll split whatever we find 50-50. And Mel jumped on it. He got 7 of his experienced dive crew members and moved to Florida for a year. 360 days into the contract, they had no treasure.
Yeah.
361, the ocean floor was paved in gold coins.
Wow.
And he was hooked. He sold everything in California, moved their whole operation.
And it was it was a struggle for a lot of years.
Absolutely.
Right? He was on the verge of bankruptcy all the time.
Yeah, so grocery stores, gas stations, none of them take treasure.
Yeah, right?
You can't walk in with a gold coin and ask for a week's worth of groceries or a year's worth of groceries. So they would sell what they could, and when times were really tough and they didn't find anything, they had hard times parties where they'd go out and catch a bunch of lobster and spear a bunch of fish, and everybody would sleep on the boats.
Yeah.
When they couldn't pay rent or didn't have the money, they would band together and make it through.
Right. So they start looking for it, and how long did it take before they found anything of significance? They found the Margareta first?
No, they found the Atocha first. So they were...
The rumor was, though, that he knew where the Margareta was, but he wanted to find the Atocha first, right?
Supposedly.
Yeah.
So they actually originally started searching up in the Northern Keys till a researcher, Dr. Eugene Lyon, who was doing his doctoral research in Seville. He had translated some old Spanish documents, and under the asking of my grandfather, he had said, please keep an eye out for any mention of these shipwrecks. And Eugene Lyon said, hey Mel, I found this translation that says the ship's wrecked off the Marquesas. And Mel immediately knew he was 100 miles away, from where these ships actually sank, from where he was currently searching. So they moved the whole operation down to Key West and started searching in between the Marquesas and the Tortugas. And they found, I believe, about a year in, they found about a big galleon anchor, like a 12 foot tall anchor. And they knew, this is where the wreck is.
Right.
They started finding musket balls and pottery shards, a silver bar, and coins and some gold bars. But yeah, and they were able to realize it was the Atocha when Eugene Lyon, same researcher, matched up a serial number from one of the silver bars to the manifest of the Atocha.
That's pretty amazing that they even had records that accurate back then.
Yeah, and we still go off that manifest today for what we believe is out there. 1985, when they found what they call the mother lode, they didn't realize for another year or two that this was only half of it.
So, are they still looking for the Stern Castle? Is that what's...
Yeah, so the Stern Castle we believe to have about 35 boxes of church gold. Catholic Church had unmanifested cargo, basically, just in chests.
Right.
So
Catholics are good. I'm a Catholic. I understand that we're pretty good at that stuff.
It could have been anything from gold rosaries to biblical texts. We won't know until we find it.
Yeah.
But we are actively searching for the Stern Castle, and about 300 more silver bars, as well as I believe 100,000 silver coins are still missing.
Jeez, 100,000 silver coins. Wow. And okay, so the discovery was made in 85?
The main pile, yeah, what they call the main pile. Was,
right.
200,000 silver coins.
Yeah.
And 1,000 silver bars stacked like a quart of firewood.
I read the book Fatal Treasure, which was fascinating and horrifying, and when they talked about them finally finding it and the lobsters peeking out from inside the gold bars or silver bars, and then stacking it on board, and Jimmy Buffett pulling up, and him sitting on there's a classic picture of Buffett sitting on the stack of bars playing A Pirate Looks at 40 while the crew's around him having champagne, which is, it doesn't get any more Key West than that, right?
Yeah, and they said Jimmy Buffett only played one song because he was still recovering from the party the night before, the night they found it. But yeah, they transferred the silver bars several times from, you don't think about it, but putting 180-pound bars on your boat really shifts the weight of the boat.
Yeah.
So once they'd put 100 on one boat, and then they'd separate it, 25 to this boat, 25 to that boat, 25 to each boat. And yeah, they reorganized those silver bars so many times. And these guys talk about weightlifting.
Right.
80 pounds, you think, it's not that heavy until you really lift them all day, every day on a moving boat.
Pull them off the bottom of the ocean, too.
Absolutely, yeah. They used shopping carts and with ropes tied to them, however they could get them to the surface.
Now, there was some things that happened leading up to that. So it would have been your uncle who died on the ship?
Yeah, my Uncle Dirk.
Give me the story behind that, because there was two stories, and that's why I say, if anyone hasn't read Fatal Treasure by Jedwin, I think it's Jedwin Smith, I think is the author, but it goes through the story of it. I've read it probably 3 or 4 times, but there was 2 major tragedies leading up to the discovery, and if you could just go over those really quick, because I think they deserve some attention, because it was more than just lost treasure that they, lost fortunes that were given up to try to find this treasure.
Absolutely. So my Uncle Dirk, he was a captain from a very young age, and he was 21 years old when he passed. 1975, on the boat, the Northwind. It was a salvage boat, big tug. Their bilge pumps went out must have been earlier, but 5:30 in the morning, the boat sank, rolled over, and 3 crew members, including my uncle Dirk, his wife Angel, and another diver, Rick Gage, all passed. And luckily, other people were able to get out, and they weren't found really or realized until a couple hours later. Sun lights up, all the other divers and boats are out working, and they realize, the Northwind's gone.
Yeah. There's a horrific story in the book about it capsizing, and, up becomes down and down becomes up, and ship's cabins filling with water, and divers trying to go back in, and then not knowing exactly where they are, and then there was oil in the water, and that's why I say it was a horrifying story.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. And if there was any point that would have stopped Mel, that was it. They're still 10 years away from the Atocha main pile.
He gave us a speech, and I don't know if you remember it word for word, but if I'm probably going to butcher this, but he said something about the ocean being great and powerful and takes men and lives, and it took my son, and I have big shoulders, and if anyone needs to lean on them, I'm here for you.
That's pretty close. I don't know it word for word either, but yeah, the ocean is a very powerful and mysterious place, and it's a big ocean.
What a leader!
Absolutely.
To take that upon his own shoulders, and he did have a diver that wasn't a family member, but with two family members dying too, and if anyone should have or had every right to fall apart after that, it would have been him, and that leadership is rare to be able to say, hey, this is horrible, but if you guys need help, I'm here for you.
Yeah, and honestly, I believe that the tragedy and the loss pushed him further.
Yeah.
It made him stronger, and we got to find it now. We got to find it.
And then there was another fatality soon after, a young boy.
Yeah, a National Geographic photographer's son. Tragedy, fell into props in the boat.
Right.
And that's all I know. I'm not too familiar with the story.
Yeah, so they use. There's a system. I don't know if they still do this to this day, but is the system uses the propellers of the boat to blow holes in the ocean floor?
Yeah. So there are big steel tubes that fold over the stern of the boat, and it's a big prop wash deflector. So they're about 3 foot in width, and we have 2 of them hanging off the back of the boat. Looks like a big macaroni elbow.
Mm-hmm.
Big steel macaroni elbow. And it basically sends clear warm water from the top down to the bottom. And if you run it, you anchor up and run these prop wash deflectors, it'll dig a big hole in the sand.
Okay.
And that was the first tool Mel used the day that the ocean floor was paved in gold coins.
Yeah.
They blasted a hole in the sand, and
there it was.
Do
they still use that technology?
Absolutely.
Huh.
We're more careful about how we do it. Most of the ocean bottom down there is a big desert.
Right.
People, they think shipwreck, and they see this Disney picturesque wooden ship laying on the bottom, and for the most part, the timbers are all gone after 300 years, 400 years of salt water, and it looks like rocks and nothing special.
Yeah.
So most people would swim right over it.
So the other good story, the day they found it, and I get either this from the book or I get this from talking to people at the chart room. Mel was at Captain Tony's, and they were trying to get a hold of him, and he didn't want to be disturbed.
Right. So more often than not, it's not good news. It's empty holes or another day on the water, and
that was kind of him and Captain Tony were friends.
Yeah, absolutely, and they were both Key West characters, 100% true conchs. Even though Mel wasn't born here, he was one of the original true conchs. Captain Tony as well. But yeah, Mel drinking his rum and coke and just staying away from the crowd, and I believe it took a couple police officers to come in and say, Mel, you got a phone call, they found it. They really found it. And he left the bar and came to the museum and came to the office and got on the radio.
Now, who was the captain? Who was the...
My Uncle Kane.
And he said, put away the charts, we found it.
Yep, he's him and diver Andy Matrosi, who's the current captain of one of our boats.
Oh, okay.
They dove down, and it looked like I said, a cord of firewood of silver bars, about 80 foot long, 4 foot high.
So basically, the hull of the ship just was gone, and what had been in the hull was sitting on the bottom.
Right. So back then there were a couple timbers left, deep in the mud, deep in the sand, where they weren't really affected by the environment. But it's even at the deepest part, 60 foot, you still get ocean currents and wear and tear from still hundreds of years of hurricanes and ocean tides that just eat away at all of this stuff.
Wow, that's amazing. So research and exploration still goes on to this day. We're still looking for the Stern Castle. Do you have people out every day doing this?
Roughly every day. Costs a lot of money to keep the boats out, but we do what we can. And yeah, we have 2 85-foot salvage vessels with divers and crew that are every day the weather permits us to be, and we don't have trouble with the boats. We're out there diving looking for treasure.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you take do you take investors out there? Is that how it works?
Yeah, they get to go dive the site with us, and they keep treasure up to the value of what they invest, and yeah, they get out. Almost all our investors get out every single year. Just depends on when they're in town and how often they come, and how often we're finding treasure.
And we just passed Mel Fisher days, right?
Yep, big celebration we do.
So the whole island is, that's the festival for that whole week, right?
Yep. We used to coincide with Ernest Hemingway days,
right,
but we had to shift a little bit to make it less chaotic for the town.
Sure.
But yeah, we used to have a trolley parade down Duval Street, and everyone had Mel masks, like Mel Fisher masks they'd hold up in front of their face, and big charity event for the Wesley House. I think this year we raised over $14,000.
Oh wow, that's great. What was it like being? Are you from here? Did you grow up here? Or?
I grew up where the other shipwrecks are that Mel started on, up in Vero Beach, Florida.
Okay.
But I came down here every single summer, almost my entire life.
Been scuba diving forever, I assume?
Yeah, I dove on my first wreck when I was 9 years old.
Wow. I don't even think that's legal, is it, to be certified scuba at 9?
No, we weren't in the U.S.
Yeah. So he had a nose for treasure, right? He looked for other.
Yeah, especially after the Atocha, his mailbox was constantly full of people. Utah, New Mexico, all over the place. Down in Colombia and Panama, they had tons of treasure stories and land hunts and people that just wanted the adventure.
Yeah.
And the fun and romance of it, really.
Right. Yeah, that's it's such a Key West story. I remember the first time, not knowing who Mel Fisher was, I came down here and we ended up in the chart room bar, and I'm sitting at the bar and I look down and it says Mel on a little plaque right in front of the bar stool. And we were just talking to John Holster from who's the bartender at the chart room, and Mel had actually, I guess, when some of these guys who are locals or regulars down there died, had part of their ashes actually put into the bar.
Yep.
And that was the first time I'd ever heard of Mel Fisher, and I asked him who he was, and this is the picture I always see,
Yep, that's Mel Stern of Rum and Coke with they call it a swizzle stick.
Yeah.
And this chain I'm wearing, he'd wear this one or one similar down to the chart room.
Right.
Put it on as many people as
the bar. So $750,000 chain. He just walks down to the.
Growing up, I was always told we're treasure rich, cash poor.
Yeah.
We have a lot of treasure. We don't have a ton of cash. And even bartenders, servers, anybody down here, usually they're a little older. We're from his generation. You'll see them wearing silver coins.
Yeah.
And they call them Key West dog tags.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, Mel would go in and pay his tab with the silver coin.
The first bartender I met at the chart room, his name was Mike Sprinkle. And he said that he had dove with Mel before they'd found the wreck. And he said that once they found the wreck, he brought him a gold coin as kind of a, hey, thanks for
keep the tab open?
Yep.
Yeah.
So he had the gold coin, and he said, "Look, I don't own anything on land." He said he lived on a boat out parked off Key West, and he drove his dinghy in every day, and he said that was his pride possession was that gold coin that he'd given him.
Yeah, and there's so many stories like that. Mel, when he hit the mother lode, he paid up.
Right. Yeah.
And he was fair with people. He gave them what he could and made sure he was good with everybody.
Right. When I got married, I got a ring from the Mel Fisher store, one of the pyramid rings, and I always tell that story that, it always says that there's a little bit of silver from the wreck in the rings, and I say, this ring has lived out such a amazing adventure, to end up on my finger. And we keep it in I tattooed it on my finger so I didn't have to wear it all the time. But we keep it in a case in our house. But the story is so Key West, and guys like Mel and Captain Tony and Jimmy Buffett are such Key West legends that kind of make this town as special as it is. And I think without them, it's just not the same.
Just another island paradise,
right? People. I think a lot of people come down here for the party. I know I did when I first came down, and being such a history buff that I am, you start going into these places, and you go into a bar, and today's the day is scrawled on the wall, and you start to figure out who these people were and how special and amazing their stories were. What is your role now with the company?
So I work in our investor relations department, and I schedule people's dives out on the site and make sure everybody's happy when they come down and visit us. And
that's a pretty good job.
Yeah,
pretty good gig.
And growing up, I was engulfed in stories about Mel and treasure hunting and the next treasure hunt and what we're going to do after we finish finding treasure from the Atocha. But honestly, there's $280 million in treasure still out there.
$280 million. Wow.
And I could search for 20 years and find bits and pieces along the way.
There's got to be theories of what happened to that stern castle and why it wasn't with the original wreck. And I mean, I guess I've been from here to the Marquesas, and I understand how vast that is, even though it's not super deep water. Do you have a sense of how close you are? I mean, you're getting signs?
How close is a very relative definition.
Sure.
Could be another mile or two.
That's the thing, right? It could be right around the corner.
Yeah, it could be the next hole we dig.
Yeah.
It could be a mile or two. It could be the next hole we dig, and the only way to find it is to keep searching. Go out there every day, dig another hole, have divers down there with metal detectors looking for the gold.
Yeah. And this is obviously a viable business now, as opposed to when Mel was struggling and scraping to get by. I mean, you have employees, you have the museum, you have shops, you have online business, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, so coin sales are a big way we stay in business.
I want to find one. I've been wanting to buy one forever. I just want to fucking find one. That's all I want.
Well, it will be your today's the day moment.
Right, yeah.
You find a piece of history. 300-year-old shipwreck artifact that hasn't been touched by another person.
Yeah.
300 years under the ocean. It's a feeling unlike anything else. I found pottery, I've found musket balls, haven't found gold yet, but I'm very hopeful. And
pretty amazing just to find pottery and musket balls.
It's history, and it's history like that helps recreate the story and understand the culture of the people that were coming over.
Yeah.
It's not all about the shiny stuff, but that's what makes our investors happy.
Yeah, the Spanish were they were obsessed. They were obsessed with their treasure. What am I looking at in front of me here?
So this is about a 2-pound gold bar.
Holy cow.
Funny story on the Margarita. We found more unmanifested or smuggled treasure than manifested treasure since we've been salvaging.
Wow.
And this is one of those pieces. It's no tax stamps. It's called a boot bar. So literally, they would shove it in their boot.
Yep.
And
it's a perfect size, right?
Yep. It would fit right in your boot. And everyone, we believe, from the Admiral down on both ships was smuggling.
Right.
So what else could be out there? You never know.
Wow. Hurricane and all that gold and silver is still sitting at the bottom of the ocean somewhere.
Yep, they didn't have a weather radar. They would sail in the middle of hurricane seasons, and this was their practice for over 400 years.
And the where it's at, or where they found the mother lode, it was like 30 feet of water? It wasn't super deep, right?
Yeah, so I said 55 feet, that's about the deepest we get.
Right.
Anywhere from 25 to 55 feet is the depth of the water it's in. The problem is, people ask all the time, what stops other people from going out there and finding all this treasure?
Yeah.
20 feet of sand covers most of this stuff.
Right.
They need the blowers. They need the expertise and the metal detectors.
They're not just going to go out there in a dinghy and find anything.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and it's back-breaking work to be out there day after day after day, diving and sometimes finding nothing and sometimes finding silver bars that you have to lug to the surface.
What kind of people are you getting that come down here and want to be treasure divers?
All kinds of people.
My favorite picture of all time is the picture of the teacher, I think she was from Wisconsin, with the giant emerald in her mouth.
Emerald Jean.
Yeah.
Oh, she's a great lady, and she did find that big, huge, I think it's 27 carat
It's like the size of a grape.
Yeah.
In her mouth, and she's just smiling with this thing in her teeth.
Yep, and she was one of the Golden Girls. Her and one of her friends moved down here and worked for Mel in the 90s, and she found that emerald.
Yeah. And the signature piece was that, was it the Bishop's Cross?
Yeah, I believe Bishop's Cross. There's a lot of palpable material meant for the church, like I said.
Yeah.
Big cut emeralds that were very rare back then in a solid gold cross.
And they found it inside like a metal box. They thought
like a lead box.
Yeah.
And a lot of our artifacts, lead box is a treasure hunter's dream. More recently, we found a lead box with 16,000 pearls in it.
Wow.
And, some of them, yes, they're the size of a grain of sand. But our conservators and conservationists, they were going through with a magnifying glass and a tweezer. And is that a grain of sand or is that a pearl?
Yeah.
And they would have to weigh every single one and photograph every single one. And he's like, please, if you find another lead box, don't let it be pearls. 16,000 times we had to go through. And
emeralds are a lot easier.
Yeah, emeralds. We believe there's a 70-pound keg that broke open on the Atocha site. And we've recovered about 7 pounds so far of emeralds.
Of the 70.
Yep. And so far about 14,000 carats, so about 7 pounds. And they're some of the most valuable emeralds in the world. They come from the Muzo mine in Colombia, which is the world standard of emeralds, even to this day, Colombian emeralds.
Yeah.
And they're extremely valuable. But we believe it could be a little over $500 million just in emeralds.
And that's as much as the original load was worth itself.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would be worth in today's money, but back then, right? It was $500 million.
Yeah, so most of our coins have gone up about 6 times in their original value. Mel would sell them for about $500,000. Depends on what the coin was, what the markings on it were.
Pieces of 8, right? That's what they're called?
Pieces of 8. And now in our gift shop we have ones that go from $1,400 all the way up to $14,000. It just depends on the quality of the coin and the markings on it and where it was minted and all kinds of different pieces of information that piece the puzzle together.
That's amazing. Yeah, he would have been proud, I think, of all the stuff you guys are doing nowadays.
Absolutely, and he'd be more focused on finding what's left.
Yeah.
He's a go get 'em kind of guy and dig a hole here.
So are his sons still? Who are you related to?
So Mel's only daughter, his
okay,
youngest child, Taffy, is my mom.
Oh, okay. I remember reading that name in the book. Okay.
Yep. So this is actually a picture of her and Mel and Dio.
What a happy-looking family.
They gave the Queen of Spain the best cannon from the Atocha, as well as a gold coin from the Atocha in 1976.
There was a great story in the book about him going up to the Queen of Spain. And do you remember that story?
Yeah. So, Mel, larger-than-life character, and especially after finding millions in treasure, he had no sense of proper etiquette, as most people would assume when you greet a queen. He's like, "Hey, Sophie,
that's what. Yeah,
I brought you something." And the people around him were like, wide-eyed and didn't know what to say because he just addressed the Queen of Spain as Sophie and Queen Sophia.
Yeah, you can take the conch out of Key West, but I guess you can't take the Key West out of the conch.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's it like being Mel Fisher's grandson down here?
It's definitely a life unlike any other. I got big shoes to fill, and that's the start of it.
Yeah.
But it's a fun lifestyle. You know, everybody who knows the story, they pretty much know me and have known me since I was a little kid. And they say, "Oh, the only difference is you're taller now."
Right.
You're the same kid. I definitely try to live by, you know, Mel's "Today is the day" motto.
Hey, I think it's a model for everyone. Everyone to live by, because it's a very simple mantra, but it could be so helpful for people to just think that way, that no matter how bad it is, today's a day could all turn around for you.
Yep.
Just like it did for him.
Yep. 16 years of searching, 1969 to 1985, and he said it every single day.
Yeah. Do you go around to the bars with the gold bar in your shirt ever?
Not this one. Yeah. This one doesn't get to leave the office, but I'm working on getting one of my own swivel sticks. Yeah, stir people's drinks with.
I like it. I dig it. Yeah, that's very cool. Ghost galleons and $500 million in Spanish treasure, and I mean, what else could you want as a kid? You know, what was the Mark Twain quote about if we were really, really good, God would let us go away to become pirates? You know, I mean, that is the Mel Fisher story is the quintessential Key West story. Rags to riches and
the American dream.
American dream, living off the fact that you're a character. Because there's no one down here who's doing anything that's normal, right? I mean,
not really. There's everything from rum distillery, you know, one of the first rum distilleries in the U.S.
Good rum, too, man.
Absolutely.
It's really good rum.
They learn from the best, you know. They're old school pirates.
Yeah.
Same thing with us, you know. The first people to salvage it were the Spanish in the 1600s. They salvaged a little bit of treasure from the Margarita, but they didn't get all of it. And they
were fantastic treasure salvers, too, right? Free divers and...
Yeah, and, you know, they used bells, big bells, would lower the bell into the water and have divers go down and get air from the bell. These guys didn't have BCs or any kind of way to get back to the surface, so they'd swim 80-pound bars to the surface. And that's some real treasure salvage.
Yeah, I was in Lake Erie a couple of weeks ago doing a workout where I would run out into water above my head and pick up a rock from the bottom and try to run it back in as far as I could, and you know, they were probably 40-pound rocks, and they were, you know, it was all running across the bottom. I can't even imagine swimming them up to the surface. That's amazing. All right, well, I want to thank you for doing this. It's an amazing story. We actually did, one of our first podcasts was just going through the story from start to finish and talking about how the reason why it happened was I was sitting at a social gathering. We were at some regatta for a yacht club, and I was just looking down. I had my wedding ring on. I was looking down at that, and I said, you know, I really ought to tell that story. And so one of our first stories was talking about Mel finding the Atocha and you know, the curses and all the horrible things that happened, and then him coming out on top. And it seemed like the whole island was pulling for him the whole time and running tabs places because they just knew it was going to happen eventually.
Yep. If anybody believed in him, it was the people in Key West. Absolutely. And his family. They were all a part of it. You know, my uncles and mom and everybody was involved.
Yep.
Some way or another.
And if you're a dreamer, this is the place to be because no one looks at you crazy, and it doesn't matter what you do. They're just going to roll with it.
Absolutely. Yep. Nobody judges anybody.
Yep. Perfect island for me. I'm glad I'm here. All right. Well, I'm going to shut this down, and it's almost time for happy hour. So.
Thank you.
Mel Fisher, thanks for coming on the show, and I'd love to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you.
This has been The Refined Savage. See ya.